Back in Accra Parliament on Tuesday, April 5, ended the first meeting of the second session of the 8th Parliament of the Fourth Republic. The House spent a total of 11 weeks working on varied subjects, including the controversial electronic transaction levy, which is now a law. The e-levy bill was passed after a month of back and forth between the majority and minority in Parliament. The minority has since dragged the Attorney General to the Supreme Court, challenging the passage of the e-levy over a lack of voting quorum when the bill was passed. Just before rising, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Bagbin, moved for 3 MPs, Sarah Joseph, Henry Kote and Kennedy Japan, to be referred to the Privileges Committee for consideration for their continuous absenteeism in the House. And this has generated a lot of conversation since yesterday. We've heard from some members of the minority supporting the move and also some kicking against it, arguing that it will set a dangerous precedent. We have on the line Dr. Ali Dusedu, a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, to help us examine some of the issues that engaged Parliament during the 15-week sitting. Thank you so much, sir, for your time this afternoon.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Give us a general view from where you sit of the just ended session of Parliament, looking at the many challenges that preceded the sitting and what transpired within the 11-week period.
So the current session of Parliament of the 8th Parliament of Ghana has witnessed a lot of successes and a little bit of challenges. So when you are looking at this particular session, what actually drew my attention and to the outside world was the Speaker's mode of dressing. I think he made it categorically clear that he wants to exhibit and sell Ghana's cultural underpinning of the way we dress to the outside world, rather than just wear the normal official attire of the Speaker in presiding. He said he would do that just in special occasions. It is very important in actually revolutionizing the way we dress as leaders of state institutions that espouses our culture and try as much as possible to reflect our current circumstances and aspirations of people. So it was very remarkable, but also the behind-the-scenes negotiations that came up stronger in this last bit and forestalled the fiscal fisticuffs that used to bedevil the Parliament that just ended, the session that just ended before this one. So we saw less of the fiscal fight and more of dialogue behind the scenes, but also the bringing in of the power of another arm of government, that is the Supreme Court, in most cases to interpret the meaning of the constitutional provisions related to the work of Parliament and also to the standing orders. And I think it was on this that we saw the Supreme Court decision on the issue of quorum for doing business and quorum for voting, but also the fact that deputy speakers can vote while they preside. And we saw this particular decision being used in disapproving some issues about laws that came under the committee level, but also the eventual passage of the e-levy, which the minority believed that the issue of the quorum for making a decision wasn't met and have gone back to the Supreme Court. So largely we have seen the whole concept of checks and balances and separation of powers between the executive and the judiciary coming in strongly in this particular session. Also the issue of absenteeism became very important issue. The fact that a lot of MPs were not coming to Parliament to do the day-to-day business for which they were elected for. And that subsequently led to the petition by a former MP for Kumbungu and the Speaker of Parliament referring 3 members of Parliament to the Privileges Committee for further action. And we also saw the decision of the Minority Chief Whip, Honorable Muntakamo Bawek, also speaking very strongly against this and filing a motion to reverse that particular decision. So by and large, the numbers issue, the role of the Supreme Court in the work of Parliament, the Speaker's attire, and the less fiscal and more dialogue have characterized this particular Parliament. And the eventual passage of the controversial e-levy has been one of the hallmarks of this particular ended
Okay. Dr. Saidu, in the past we've heard concerns that the legislature has become a rubber stamp of the executive. Whatever comes from the executive, you find the legislature passing it because numbers were in favor of whoever was at the helm of affairs. Did that change in this session, looking at the hung nature of the House?
Yes, I think this 8th Parliament have been more critical of the policies coming from the executive arm of government than the previous parliament before the 8th Parliament in the 4th Republic. And it all speaks to the numbers game like you've mentioned. In the past, the government that is in power, political parties in power, usually have majority of seats in parliament. So the MPs mostly do the bidding of the executive arm of government. This time it is very difficult because of the very close, balanced nature of parliament. Those things are not happening. But one thing that has also become a serious issue was the allegation that the executive is enticing the best brains from parliament to serve in boards, in committees, and as part of the executive as ministers or deputy ministers, which also creates that element of leverage of the executive over the legislative arm of government. And I think the Speaker of Parliament made it categorically clear that moving forward, he's going to fight this if those kind of appointments to use state boards are not made through him. So there are various ways that the executive can express leverage over the legislature. And that also makes them warm up to the interests of the executive. Even though the numbers are working in this parliament than in the previous parliament, but these other perks have been used to control members of parliament in a way that inure to the benefit of the executive.
Dr. Alidu, thank you so much. Time will not permit us to further the discussion. Of course, we catch up again in our subsequent bulletins.